Thank you for joining us at All About Neurodivergent Overwhelm. It's a big topic. We're excited to talk to you today. So before we get started, if you have, here, let me make myself higher. If you have specific questions about neurodivergent overwhelm that made you specifically interested in joining us today, please put them in the comments. We may not be able to address all of them, but we'll do our best, and I will comment back to you or direct message you later with answers to anything that we don't get to cover in the live. We'll be here for about 20 or 30 minutes, and we have some information we'd like to share with you, and then we will be, answering as many questions as we can. So, all right. So I'm Danielle Sullivan. I am the owner of Neurodivergent Coaching and the head coach there, and I'm an autistic ADHD person, and I'm also a certified life coach, transformational coach, positive psychology coach, and solution-focused coach. I'm also a parent coach as of recently, which I keep forgetting to put in my credentials. We're really excited to talk to you today about neurodivergent overwhelm. It's a topic that's really close to both of our hearts and something that we work with a lot of clients on. So thanks for coming. Jackie, would you like to introduce yourself real quick? Tell folks who you are.
Hi, everyone. I'm Jacqueline Coursey, and I'm out in California. I am a life coach for neurodivergent adults, and I do group and individual coaching, and I'm just very excited to be here today.
This is Jackie's first ever Instagram Live. I made her come on, so be nice to us.
Yes.
As we handle new technology, but I think this is a great way to talk to all of you. So I'm very excited. Okay, so we're here to talk about neurodivergent overwhelm, right? And I think today what we wanted to cover kind of quickly, just to give you guys some basic information and some basic interventions that you can do to help yourself. Sorry, I did a brain fog right in the middle of that sentence. Some basic interventions that you can implement today and tomorrow and this week to help relieve some of the overwhelm you're feeling, and also to figure out where the sources are, like what's happening, why it's happening. So we're going to just talk about some of the symptoms of overwhelm, some of the possible causes, and then try to give you some things that you can take away to go fix it. I also just want to let you know that something really exciting that we're doing that's coming up really soon is Jackie and I are co-hosting a 6-week group coaching program called From Defeated to Inspired. This is our second cohort, and it's starting on March 22nd. So we'll be talking about that a little bit, but there'll be more information coming up in kind of future posts on this channel and on Jackie's, so you can follow us both if you're interested in that. And in that course, we talk a ton about overwhelm and what to do with it and really get down to the nitty gritty. So, yeah. Would you like to start talking about some of the symptoms of overwhelm? What do you see in your clients as when overwhelm spikes? What are some of the stuff that
a lot of brain fog, confusion, where you feel disoriented. I know a big thing, even as an ADHDer that I am, is my working memory just goes down the drain during overwhelm. I tend to tremble, and my clients say the same thing, and it seems across the board folks share that they feel very irritable. That's always a big sign that you're going into overwhelm.
Yeah, I think that irritability is a huge piece of the puzzle for a lot of the clients that I see. And really significant overwhelm, it can go past irritability to where you're having a lot of meltdowns and shutdowns, or you're tired all the time. A lot of it mimics depression symptoms, and I encourage you to, if you think you might have depression, go get screened by a doctor too. But if you're not showing all the depression symptoms, but you are having trouble feeling excited about life, and you're neurodivergent and you're getting meltdowns a lot, that might be neurodivergent overwhelm sometimes. So it's good to check.
And something that some folks have said to me is stomach issues.
Oh, yeah. 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 I think, sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just saying that just can be hand in hand for sure.
I think a lot of neurodivergent folks, sometimes when we have a feeling we can't identify, it shows up as a body pain or a body issue. And so things like headaches and stomach pain and back pain, you know, again, might be a physical cause, so go to a doctor. But if it's one of those things that keeps happening when there's a lot of stress in your life, it might be related to overwhelm. So, yeah.
Thanks.
Awesome. And then we wanted to talk a little bit about some of the causes of overwhelm, because I think that a lot of people kind of feel like overwhelm is an individual problem, like you're doing something wrong yourself,
Right.
or you're not like working hard enough, or you're not communicating well enough, or something like that. And I think that really overwhelm has a lot of causes that are sometimes individual, and sometimes things you can control, and sometimes things you can't. What would you like to say about that?
Well, this is a real hot topic with my clients right now, and with that overwhelmed feeling because you are in a very ableist, neurotypical society where you feel like you're not measuring up to what everybody else is able to do, you think, and you're feeling less than, and feeling like you should continue to persevere, and you know, right into a burnout kind of thing.
Yeah, you push and you push and you push and you push. Yeah,
everyone else is
because
pushing. I'm in graduate school, or I'm on a job, you know, a project at work, and everyone else seems to be working, you know, 24/7. I've got to keep going. And so feeling like you have to fit in and keep going, dropping your boundaries, that, you know, it's too much for your body and your brain to keep going, and, you know, until you can't anymore.
Yeah. I think that a lot of overwhelm is, I'm really glad you brought up, you know, that we're living in a neurotypical society. And so even individual people who are not ableist, or are not, or who believe that we have as much value as anybody else, there's still things in place in society that are kind of against us, and expectations that we're being asked to meet that are not always things that we can, that's reasonable for us, especially without accommodations, which we deserve access to. And so things like, you know, that ableism, that feeling like we're not, as that internalized ableism of, I should be able to do it like everybody else, like, why can't I? Or sometimes structural things like, you know, the way society is set up, like if you're in a place of poverty, or if you're experiencing racism or sexism, or any other kind of imbalance in equity, that those are things that are really hard for you to control, and it can really, you know, drive you into feeling constantly overwhelmed with all these expectations you're not going to meet. So, but there are a couple of ones that are more controllable, that we have more, you know, access to change. And some of those, I think you said, are things like the boundaries, right? Setting reasonable ones. I would love to talk more about that. Yeah. What are some boundaries that you kind of support clients in doing more of?
First, with themselves, that they are not feeling like it can be just working every minute of the day, like, so that there's a boundary from personal life versus professional or school life, and figuring out when like, we spend a lot of time making time for eating, and going outside and grounding yourself, and doing things that will help you feel less overwhelmed. If you're going to meditate, whatever it is, that there's time in your life for those things. So, like, first off, practicing with yourself, and then having the wherewithal, also knowing that, especially now with technology, we're operating 24/7, knowing that doesn't necessarily have to be what you're going to do, and put your boundary up. You and I just got out of a meeting where we were talking about on weekends not answering emails. It's like, so that would be a professional boundary.
Yeah, you're allowed to say, no, I don't, unless you want to pay me for the overtime on the weekend. And
you said something good there too, Danielle, about if you want to pay me. There's so many times in when we're working that we will do all of that extra stuff, and there is no paycheck coming with it. And so you're not slowing down your life and taking a break, and you're really doing free work for your company.
Yeah, and they're now this day and age not doing anything to support you at home in most cases, and so it's not an equal exchange. There's no equity there. So yeah, that's really important. Welcome, new people. We're talking about neurodivergent overwhelm today. Thank you so much for joining us. If you have questions or ideas, please put them in the comments. We are keeping an eye, and we'll try to answer as many as we can when we're done with our little conversation. So thanks for joining us. Yeah. So we have a couple of different causes. We have the boundaries, like you talked about, like putting yourself first in a lot of cases, which is really hard for a lot of us to do. We're not trained to do that. We're not brought up to do that. A lot of us are brought up to put other people first, right? But if you fall over, everyone else is going to fall over too. So like you said, you know, going out and taking walks or meditating if you're like that, or even I have clients who, you know, just text their partners at a scheduled time throughout the day to get that sort of positive feedback of somebody out there cares about me, you know, looking at pictures of your cat, right? That can be, it sounds a little silly, and it's not going to fix neurodivergent overwhelm in and of itself, but doing a lot of small things that make you recognize your community and recognize your connection to everyone else and pull you away from all of the expectations that you feel like you need to meet can be really beneficial. And then one of the things I think we also talked about was internalized shame. I know we were talking about that in that meeting before too, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can be hearing about how you're not doing it right all of your life, and then at some point that recording is playing inside your own head.
Yeah.
And you feel like you're not good enough, and, you know, am I giving enough eye contact? Am I in this conversation correctly? All of that is playing in your head, exhausting you. Am I smiling enough? You know, am I?
Oh gosh, yes.
All of that stuff that's just exhausting for a neurodiverse person.
Yeah, and I'm one of those people who's an inappropriate giggler, right? That's one of my autism presentations, and sometimes that means I'll giggle at a neurotypical's inappropriate quote unquote time, and it's not meant, you know, to be making fun of or to, you know, really show anything. It's just a kind of tick I happen to have. And so there's a lot of sort of self modulation or having to pay a lot of attention to everything we're doing. So that can be really hard. So I think that's a huge cause of neurodivergent burnout as well. Yeah.
Absolutely. A viewer just wondered why we were talking about downer things. And what Danielle and I are here today to do is we're really trying to let people know when they're feeling down about themselves, that really there's so much more at hand, and it isn't that you're a bad person or you're doing something incorrectly. It's that it is not easy to be neurodiverse in our world, and there are things you can do, but it usually starts with realizing it isn't just you. It isn't about you being bad or wrong.
Exactly. And that's a part of what we do as coaches, right? Is it's really easy for each individual person to think, well, I'm just doing it wrong. But really, you're not alone in how, like, we have this list of possible causes of neurodivergent overwhelm, because so many other people are experiencing neurodivergent overwhelm. And, you know, I often say I wish my coaching practice disappeared overnight, because it would mean so many people were starting to get the resources that they need. They don't need me anymore, right? But as it is, we're talking about downer things because people are struggling. And so part of our goal is to help people struggle less and start to get to places where they can feel calmer and confident and not be constantly overwhelmed. And it's totally possible in so many of the clients that Jackie and I've worked with. And so that's why we're here.
Yes, absolutely. And we talked a little bit in the beginning about the class that we're going to be, or the coaching group we're going to be having coming up in March 22nd. That is what we heard from our peers that were in the class, that that they felt better, that they were less overwhelmed and less depressed once they knew they were part of a community that went through this together, and that there were things they could do to cope and have great days.
Yeah, absolutely. Because there are, and we're going to give you some here too, so don't worry. You don't have to join. I mean, we encourage you to join the class if it seems like a good fit for you, and you can always ask us questions, just direct message us if you're not sure if it's a fit for you. Scholarships are available as well. There's information on that in the link I'll put below once this is posted, once we're done. But I just want to let you know that there are a lot of strategies that you can use that have really good results, that have evidence-based, practices behind them. And so we share those in the 6-week course. But there are some things that we can share quickly that don't require a whole 6 weeks to go through. So we'd love to offer some of that to you now. One of the ones that I think has really changed my life personally, and I was talking to Jackie about this earlier, is the shoulds, noticing the shoulds.
Mm-hmm.
Every time, this is like an easy practice to get into. Every time you notice yourself somewhere in your brain saying, well, I should be able to do it, or I should be able to have a clean house like my mother. I should be able to make dinner every night. I should be able to whatever your expectation is. A lot of times that should is not lined up with your goals. Like, I don't have a clean house because I want to spend time with my family. I don't cook dinner every night because I like to have time to read. And so I'll cook dinner when I can, and I'll, order sometimes. And I shouldn't have to feel guilty about that, right? But we are trained in certain ways to compare ourselves to unreasonable expectations. And then when we don't achieve those unreasonable expectations, we feel bad about it.
Mm-hmm.
And you can hear I get emotional about it because I'm like, well, we shouldn't have to feel bad about not doing things perfectly all the time. We're allowed to enjoy our books and spend time with our kids and not have the most beautiful house ever, right? And so starting to notice when you're comparing yourself to other people kind of for no reason, and hearing yourself say should can be a really good way to just start to question, well, why should I? Like, sometimes there's a reason, but a lot of times there's not. Like, a lot of times you shouldn't have to. There is no should. So that's one of mine. What are some of your tips for getting out or reducing neurodivergent overwhelm or getting out?
One thing I would say is that you taught me is when I want to go back to the shoulds for a second. You did a broadcast within the last month or so where you took your camera and you showed your place and you showed like I am focusing on myself and my kiddos. And on your own mental health, right? Mm-hmm. And it isn't about did the dishes get clean or are the counters right or the drawers, whatever. And you started scanning, and I thought that was so good. Another thing that absolutely works for me as an ADHDer is that concept that probably everyone has heard by now about the spoons, but it's like really thinking about as if you're given so many spoons for your day and you will run out, and thinking about how you want to use those spoons, because when you're out, as a matter of speaking. So it's like, what do I want to have count today?
Yeah.
And then as a caveat to that, actually what I've been reading lately is that some people have the belief system that you can get a few extra spoons in your day when you not only are doing some things in order to relax, but also when you are enjoying your special interests. That will add to your mental health and your spoons for the day kind of thing.
Yeah. We have a podcast, a really early podcast. Please don't judge me about it. But Neurodivergent has a podcast on spoons and forks. I think it's episode 7. If you haven't had a chance to, if you're not familiar and you haven't had a chance, you can go listen to that. Another way to think about it is just capacity, right? What is your capacity today? And to remember that capacity shifts. Like, we're human people. Sometimes you have high capacity, sometimes you have low. I find that a lot of my clients want every day to be their best day ever, right? So if they got 10 things done one day 3 years ago, the whole rest of this time since that one day, they've been holding themselves to that standard of that one random high performance day 3 years ago. And it's like, you have to hold yourself to a reasonable standard to figure out what can you actually do per day? Like, normally, what's a normal day? Not the best day, the normal day. And start there, right? Again, noticing when you're pushing yourself into, I should be able to do what I did that one day every day. Well, that's not actually reasonable, nor is it how humans work. And so thinking about what's your norm? What are your goals? What are your values? And making sure all that stuff aligns is really important.
And I saw someone had mentioned about wanting to be happier. I mean, it really is, you get the precious life and you get to decide what it's going to look like. And for you to take time in your day to do the things that you love and enjoy. And going back to the shoulds, wipe those shoulds out. You're not going to remember shoulds later. Yeah,
like, you can judge me for my dirty house that I put all over Instagram, but when I am, dying on my deathbed, I'm not going to be worried that I never clean that corner in the bathroom. I'm going to be thinking, I'm going to be grateful for having spent the time with my kids, you know, and there's no longer view than that. I think thinking in the longer view is always going to help you focus on the stuff that's actually important to you, right? And that is, yeah. And that's evidence-based from positive psychology, how people get happier, right? Is focusing on those longer views. That's, you know, not only something that I've found personally in my work, but also something that is based in a lot of years, like I think like 4 decades of research at this point. So yeah, it's good all around. So, yeah.
I'm thinking about what you do with your cats, and many of my clients with their cats, and the joy I see on all of your faces when the cat comes into the room and we're in our session or we're in our group. And I just love that. Oh my gosh, it just makes my day. And just about that bliss and joy and what do I want is I would think to myself when I watch that happen is I want some of that feeling that you're having when you're with your animal, dog, cat, whatever it is. There's different pets for different people, but a lot of folks, that is one of their passions. And the calm that comes over a person's face when that interaction happens, I just makes my day.
That's a really good example for me of a should too, because when I started coaching, you know, we were all at home, pandemic, and my cat kept coming into calls, and I was like, this is so unprofessional. This is so, you know, people can't see me like this. I'm trying to establish my professional identity as a coach. And now I'm at this, that was a should, right? Other people are professional like this, so I should be professional like that. And now I'm like, no, here's my cat. Like, I enjoy this cat. This is a part of my life. It's also part of a reasonable expectation of working from home, is sometimes there will be cats, right? And so that's a really clear, specific example in my own life, Jackie, of how noticing the should pulled me back from kind of way overachieving a thing I did not need to overachieve and pouring a ton of energy into it that I could have used for something else. And now I save that energy and I enjoy my cat, and my life is a lot better, and my clients still get the same great service that they would have gotten without the cat from maybe a slightly less stressed coach. So it's way better. It's way better. So it's really funny that you said that. I really enjoyed that.
Something else that's coming up for me is that we all go off into the world every day and we're exposed to all kinds of folks. And if to help yourself with the ableism out there and the shoulds and all these things we're talking about today that are on the negative side, really consider trying to have some of your time be with folks that are also neurodivergent, whether it is that you get a group together or find on, what is it, Meets Up? Is that what it's called? Whatever.
Meetup. Yeah, Meetup.
Okay. Yeah. But to have people around you that understand what you are going through and commiserate and be joyful together and just be with someone that gets it.
I was reading a comment about the cats, somebody else's experience with the cats in the camera. Thank you for sharing that. My favorite part, I'm sorry this is off topic, but my favorite part of meeting with clients is when I get to see their pets and kids. That's like, I mean, I love my clients and I love my work, but can you say no to a kitty butt? Like, I can't. So. Anyway, thank you for your comment. I really appreciate it. And so Jackie and I are, just to reiterate, doing the 6-week program called From Defeated to Inspired. It's a group program. It's open to folks of all ages and all genders. And it starts on March 22nd. Once this video goes onto my Instagram page as a post, you'll be able to click through and see the link. But if you go to neurodivergent.com right now, you can click on individual resources for individuals, and there's a link to From Defeated to Inspired to learn more about it, to see if you might be a good fit. And we do have scholarships available as well. I just want to highlight that for folks who are at financial need, that it's meant, we always have scholarships available for any program we do, because we want people to be able to have access to it. Jackie and I are here if you have questions too. We are not interested in hard selling anyone on this program. We are interested in supporting folks who want the support. And so if you're thinking it might be a good fit for you, but you're not sure, just ping us and we're happy to answer questions, and we're not going to chase you about it. The program's really good for folks who are maybe a year or two or more into their diagnosis journey, or whether that's self-identity or professionally diagnosed. And it's for folks who are starting to understand their neurodivergent traits and how it affects their life, but are still working to understand sort of that internalized ableism piece, all the shoulds and where they come from. And if you're experiencing burnout or overwhelm a lot, and you can't quite pin down why, but you're ready to make changes to address it, right? And to be recovering from burnout and from overwhelm faster, then this might be a good program for you, because we share a lot of evidence-based coaching strategies that we've learned from working with more than 100 people at this point. I don't know what your number is, Jackie, but quite a number of people in exactly the same place you are. So
absolutely. And I just, Danielle, I want to highlight too your website and your podcasts for folks. It's how I found you and wanted to work with you as a fellow coach. You have amazing podcasts and written material, blogs, just so much information that's helpful to people when they're trying to find their way. I just really encourage folks to go to neurodivergent.com, right?
Yeah, that's where we are.
Right when I'm saying that.
No, thank you so much, Jackie. That's really kind. I'm so glad to have helped folks. That's why we're here. And so I'm happy to hang out for questions for a couple minutes. Let me scroll back too, but I think that's our. Is there anything else, Jackie, that you would like to say that we didn't say?
No, I think I'm good. I fun. This was my first time, and thanks for being there with us.
You did beautifully. Yeah, thank
you.
Everyone. Thanks everyone for joining and for being patient with our technological woes, but I think we did okay.
Yeah.
I really enjoy everyone joining. TBI Trader, I'm sorry, I don't have recommendations for supplements. That's something to ask a nutritionist or a health coach. As a neurodiversity coach, we really work a lot in, I'm reading the rest of your comments, in executive function and day-to-day challenges. I'm sure there are supplements that can support, but I am not the person to ask. I'm sorry. If I have, I have to think if I know anyone who would be able to answer that question. Let's see. Thank you for all your comments. Cat butts. Okay. Thank you all for joining us today. I think we're going to finish up. We really appreciate your time, and we hope to see some of you in From Defeated to Inspired. Please leave a comment or send us a message if you have any questions related to this. Even if you don't want to buy anything from us, we're super happy to help.
Yep.
And we appreciate you so much. Have a good day.
Take care, everyone.